Writers need more balls. What do I mean by that? Well, I think that most of the writers do and did follow a certain pattern to avoid putting the balls on the table when it really matters. As an example, in show S, we have character C. He is in horrible scenario S1, and it is so certain that he is going to die. It logically just makes 100% sense. But then scenario S2 happens. Scenario S2 could be any cheap and stupid bullshit the writers make up. It's mostly something like C is being saved by his or her old pal who happens to just jump in between the action and only in the last second is able to heroically pull C out of the way of whatever was gonna knock him out of his or her shoes. Another example would be C didn't drink the poisoned wine because he switched the glasses, even though it was never shown on camera. So what do I mean by putting the balls on the table? Well, I guess I mean the characters of the show, especially characters we like and we are emotionally attached to, don't get any get out of jail free cards. Why? Because whenever a scenario like the one I mentioned happens, I instantly get pulled out of the action and my emotional investment goes down the drain. Also, in a lot of situations, it's not only that, but it often damages the characters in retrospect. Let me give you an example from a worldwide successful TV show here, The Walking Dead. You probably have seen this already, so I'm not going to lay out the whole scenario. Here's the short version. Nicholas, the guy with the same haircut as Poophead from GTA 5, is trapped in a trash can with Glenn. Nicholas is a dick, and he wants to make up for it. He pops himself, lands on the walkers, but Glenn is ripped down too. The next shot is a dramatic zoom at Glenn's face, zombies all over him doing what they do best. Everybody is in shock and thinks it's horrible Glenn dies. But the zombies were actually on Nicholas, who was lying on top of Glenn. But we, the viewer, weren't shown. Cheap. Really fucking cheap. Well, I was emotionally invested in the scene and I thought he was dead. 5 or so episodes later we see he's still alive and I hated him from that point on, because for me he already died. I bet originally they actually wanted to kill him off there, but they probably thought, killing off 3 main characters in one season is a little dangerous, isn't it? I mean, our viewers could get mad and stop watching the show, we would get less money and this show is a cow we got to milk, so that can't happen. We should just kill Glenn in season 8 with Negan, and as we all know, he dies in the comics in this scene. Everybody will think just Glenn dies, but we will also kill Abraham. Surely it'll be just as emotional as it would have been if we hadn't done all this bullshit with Nicholas. The writers either should have let Glenn die in the scene with Nicholas, or not have made the scene like that at all, because it ruined the emotion in the finale with Negan, at least for me. I didn't feel as much as I probably would have had the Nicholas thing not happened. They shot the scene like they did, fully aware that everybody would think that Glenn died. It is weak and pathetic. This is just one of many scenarios where writers weasel their way out of a tough situation. Of course, I don't know if that's how the creative process, if they even have that in The Walking Dead, actually went, though it's likely, but I think you get the point. But this example is only partly a good one for the topic of this video, yet it was necessary to also say something about the Glenn scenario. Yes, ultimately they killed him off anyway, but the way they handled the supposed death is a prime example of the topic of this video. Here is a perfect example from Game of Thrones' latest season. When Jaime Lannister ran up to Daenerys Targaryen and her dragon to kill her with his spear, what the fuck, I thought he was 100% done for. But out of nowhere, just in the last millisecond comes Bronn and saves Jaime's butt by jumping on him and pushing him in the water. Hey, does that remember you of something? But to top it off, the creators of this show how Jaime is obviously not capable of swimming and is probably gonna drown. Cliffhanger. Next episode, he's back on the top of the water, fine and dandy. Really? Really? Well, apparently Game of Thrones now does last minute saves too. I would not have believed that this show could sink so low. The worst part, this is not a one-time thing, a mistake they once made and are probably ashamed of, a ride-around so to say. Because a few episodes later, they do the same stupid kind of last-minute save for Jon and his posse while they are stuck on the ice north of the wall. It's really weird that Game of Thrones is such a good example for this, because Game of Thrones is also my example of a show which at least did it just right when it came to putting the balls on the table. But sadly the show fell into the same lazy pattern that so many other shows have. Here is a good example of how the writers should handle the situation when the door for a last minute save is open. Ned Stark is a super nice character. Every viewer probably likes him. In the first season of the show, a lot of people might consider him the protagonist. They are emotionally invested in him, because he is the underdog and a man of honor with a good heart in a tough situation. And he gets his head chopped off in the first season. And that not even in the last episode where you would expect the real shit to go down. Now, that's the highest discipline of putting the balls on the table out of the How to Put the Balls on the Table book. Probably every viewer is in shock. Some are sad, some are mad, but every viewer is in shock. And that's the key in this. Surprise. No last minute save, no rescue. When I watched the scene, I actually thought that at the moment of the slow motion before Ellen Payne's swing did every second now, the audio is going to go back to normal and everybody would scream and the attack on King's Landing starts, which would then happen in the finale and that would be saved. But it didn't. No, it didn't happen. My mind was so trained to expect something like this because I was so used to see similar events turn out just like this in a great deal of other TV shows. That is really unlike real life. And Game of Thrones in this situation and in countless others showed just how it is in real life. Ned Stark doesn't get special treatment because he is really liked by the fans. He's just a man in this world who by his decisions sealed his own fate, so he has to face it. Okay, I could speak another 3 hours about why I think that these pathetic attempts of trying to make the viewer emotionally involved are garbage, and why it is way better to be consequential as a writer and not hold any back doors open or use cheap ways of writing like the last minute saves. But I won't. My goal with this video is to bring the point across. So, to sum this up, writers of TV shows should be consequent and not hold themselves any backdoors open, or give the viewer's favorite characters get out of jail free cards. Do it like early Game of Thrones did, cause that is the best way to get your viewer invested in the story, a character, or in the whole show.